Welcome back to the UFC Pros Pick Show. I am James Lynch. He is James Krause. And of course, we're joined by Nick Kalikas. We're going to be talking about the mega card this Saturday, UFC 274, going down in Phoenix, Arizona. But before we break down the card, we got to go over last week. A good week. Again, James Krause had Darren Elkins. He cashed. Elkins looked great in that one. I had Elkins by decision, which hit. Johan Lainez almost had him. I felt good about that in that first round. And then the second round, I don't know what happened. He just he got finished. That's what happened. So it's going to happen. Again, I thought the value was there, but credit to Gabe Green for getting it done in that fight. Okay.
He's tough. So tough.
He is.
Good Lord,
he
he's
is.
tough.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think those shots would have put down a lot of other welterweights. Let's get to the main event. Really exciting lightweight fight in the lightweight championship fight, I should say. Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje. The line right now has Charles Oliveira, the champ, as the favorite. Finally, this guy's getting some respect from the bookies and the betting public. He's the favorite. Minus 172. The comeback on Justin Gaethje, plus 150. Nick, we'll start with you first. Any interesting line movement here? Because like I mentioned, Oliveira in a lot of cases has been the underdog in his career, even when he's been champion.
That's right. And he opened minus 200, minus 205 market wide. And the initial action did come in on Gaethje. The line dropped to what you're seeing right now, about $1.70 out there. Plus 150 on the comeback is about the average price right now. So the dog money on Gaethje has dropped a little bit. But at the same time, now we are starting to see some action back on Oliveira for sure. He deserves that respect. He deserves to be champion right now. And man, he's been just fantastic his last few fights.
Krause, who are you going with in the main event? The odds are close. How are you seeing this one?
Well, I have two different perspectives on this. Obviously, from the perspective of matchup, who I think is going to win. I'm actually going to go with the dog here. I'm going to go with Gaethje. I think this is going to be a fight where you're going to. I think it's going to be Gaethje's fight. I think you're going to see one-way traffic, and I think he's going to dominate every second of this fight until he doesn't. If that makes sense, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think this is going to be Oliveira's fight to win. But Oliveira is so dangerous everywhere, and I will say this: if Oliveira gets Gaethje down, I don't think it's going to last long. I think he's going to cut through, and to be honest, he doesn't even have to get him down. If he gets his back standing, and we've talked about that. Like, that was one of the things I said about Poirier. Is like, well, everybody was like, I don't know if you can get him down. He didn't have to get him down. He didn't have to get him down, and Oliveira has the knockout equivalent with his jiu-jitsu, even hanging from your back on the feet, you know? So, but I'm going to take Gaethje here. I think his intensity and his aggressiveness, he has a very squared style. So it's really difficult to take his back standing, to whereas like Poirier is more bladed off and he's going to be in an open stance. So it's a lot easier to sneak that head to the backside. I think the takedowns are going to be a little bit more difficult on Gaethje. All that being said, I'm going to take Gaethje to win until he's not, if that makes sense. Now, from a betting perspective, I really love this fight because I feel like I'm going to give you guys a scenario where it's
I know exactly where you're going with this, by the way, but go ahead. I think it's pretty obvious, but yeah, go ahead.
Maybe. I'm going to bet Gaethje money line. I'm going to bet Gaethje money line. I think that's like plus 150 right now, plus 140, somewhere in there. And then I'm gonna bet Oliveira by submission, which is also plus money. I don't see how Oliveira is gonna win a decision here. I don't see how you lose that bet. Yeah, I just don't see it. And then obviously you hope for the one that brings the more value back. But I think Gaethje's gonna win this fight, and if he doesn't, it's gonna be by submission. This fight's not going the distance, I don't think. So Gaethje money line, Oliveira by submission. I think you're gonna get plus money on both of those. Cash your money.
Well, I think you can be even greedier and take Gaethje by knockout. Would the odds not be better than just him straight up? I would think it would be, because Gaethje's probably not winning a decision, if we're being honest here. It's 5 rounds maybe, but I don't know. I think you can be really greedy.
If the fight does go the distance,
the fight's not going the distance, man.
I don't.
This fight's not hitting the scorecards.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
But if it does go the distance, it's on the Gaethje side, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I do agree with that. And if you want to get greedy, you can go Gaethje by knockout. For me, I might play both. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, this is a great fight from a bettor's perspective to win some money on, because there's so much value on the props here. I don't see this fight going the distance. These guys are both so dangerous. You could go knockout, go submission, or you could go money line on the dog and then go submission. I think if Oliveira wins 100 times out of 100, it's going to be by submission here.
By the way, make sure to check out Nick on UFC on the Line this week to get his picks as well. But we're definitely excited to hear about some line movement this week too. This show would be boring. We agreed on all the time. So and I'm not just saying this. People know me well enough. I'm not picking against Charles Oliveira until he loses on this streak he's been on. This guy's looked amazing. To me, what it comes down to is, this guy can take a punch. And I know at some point that's going to not be the case. He's going to get knocked out. And maybe this is the fight where Gaethje comes out and knocks him out in the first round. Michael Chandler nearly did it in their fight. Yeah. However, I think the fact that he did survive that and was able to persevere and come back and get the finish in that one makes me think that if Gaethje can't get him out early, I think Oliveira's got this. He's got such an advantage on the ground, and I know you got to get it there. And I know, like you mentioned, it's going to be tough for him to submit him standing as well, but I just think Oliveira's seen it all. I mean, you look at the experience gap too. If you look at the fact that Gaethje, and granted, it's not his fault. He's got to fight who he's fighting in World Series of Fighting, but I mean, you think of who Oliveira's fought in his career. He's been a mainstay in the UFC forever. He's seen it all. Busted prospect. He's heard everything, but he's overcome it. And he's now at the stage in his career where it doesn't matter what you throw at him. He's seen it, for the most part. So I think what's going to happen is I think Oliveira is going to survive that first round. I think second, third round, Oliveira somehow is going to get this to the ground and he's going to submit him. And I agree with you, Krause, because we saw how quickly Khabib was able to get him to the ground and tap him out. And I know Khabib and Oliveira are different fighters. I'm just saying. I know, but I'm just saying that But I just think the ground game is so good with Oliveira. Like, he might have the best jiu-jitsu period in the UFC. You could make that argument. It's so good.
Maybe in all of MMA.
Offensively. Defensively, he kind of lets me down at times and disappoints.
Yes,
because
I will agree
having
with you
that dominant offensive game, you would think his defense would be a little bit tighter. But you're right. I totally agree with what you're saying, Lynch.
Yeah, I think the play here, if you're going to, I'm going to pick Oliveira, obviously, but the play here is the fight doesn't go the distance. I'd be shocked if this fight hit the scorecards, just knowing both guys. Gaethje never typically goes to the scorecards. Oliveira, at least recently, has not. He's really, kicked it into another gear. I think that's the play if you're going to bet this. You could bet Oliveira. Like, I probably will bet him too, but just to me, it's like, it's one of those things where it is a close fight. Like, we could be talking next week about Justin Gaethje knockout win. Would not shock me in the least, but right now I got to go Oliveira, just the run he's been on. Also, quickly, the activity level, right? Gaethje's only had the one fight since Khabib, long gaps in between fights. I like the fact that Oliveira's been a lot more active, so that's another reason to like him here. I'm going Charles Oliveira by third round submission to get it done over Justin Gaethje. Okay, let's get to the next fight. We are going to go into the co-main event, the rematch that's it finally got put together. It's Rose Namajunas, Carla Esparza. Right now, Thug Rose minus 213 on the money line there. Carla Esparza, the comeback, plus 175. Nick, any interesting line movement here as far as the odds go?
Yes, it opened around minus 220, just over 200 for Rose. It did dip down a little bit to about minus 170, minus 180 because the dog action on Esparza came in. For sure, you got to respect that side. I mean, she has a win over Rose, so a lot of people are going to be tempted by the dog money for sure. I mean, and you cannot deny Esparza's run to this title. I mean, she's looked fantastic. She has that wrestling game. And again, the past history to kind of prove that she could be a live dog here. But now we are seeing some sharp action come back in and lay the chalk on the Rose side, and it has been bet back up to the opening spot around minus 213, like you said here, minus 220-ish or so. So there's been a ton of action and a ton of volume at the betting window for sure here.
Krause, who are you going with? And new or and still?
Man, this is like, I just recently started betting probably a year ago. So like now I have two different avenues of how I look at everything. From a fight perspective, it's just hard to deny what Rose has done. And I'll be honest with you, I've kind of counted her out a couple times and thought she was going to get washed by Joanna. And man, she's got Joanna's number. I thought Weili was going to be tough for her. And, here we are. She's just showing everybody, making me look stupid. You know what I mean? So like, I have a lot of respect for her as a champion. For whatever reason, I just have a feeling about Esparza. I think she matches up. When I look at Rose, if we look at Rose, who's Rose's toughest competition to date? In my opinion, it's been Andrade, right? Like stylistically, I should say.
Right.
From like a close fight perspective, Weili was a very close fight the second time around, obviously. But from a stylistic standpoint, Andrade has been the toughest test for her yet. Now, if you look stylistically, who's the closest person to Andrade, you're going to get Carla Esparza. However, I think the wrestling of Esparza is much more technical, much more folk style, doubles, singles, rather than lifts. It's much more efficient. And I think she's, when she gets ground positions, she settles them very well. I don't know. I just have a weird feeling about Esparza here. I really do. She's came under the radar. She's confidently asked for this fight for a while now. I don't know why. Rose's right now she's incredible. I just have a weird feeling that Esparza is going to sneak in and shock a lot of people.
I see this totally differently. I think Rose wins this absolutely no problem. To me, you look at the last couple of performances that she's had, even that Andrade loss, that was a fight she was winning. And I know, again, she got taken to the ground in that first round. The second round, she got slammed. I mean, she proved in the third fight that they had, or the second fight, I should say, that, you know, she can obviously beat Andrade. Like, she took a hard shot from Andrade late in that fight, was able to come back and persevere. And, you know, Andrade's got some serious power. Carla doesn't have that type of power, in my opinion. No. Carla's got good wrestling. I mean, the Yan Shonan performance was definitely one where I'm like, okay, I've definitely underestimated Carla a little bit here, because that was a really good win for her. She had a really close fight against Marina Rodriguez. Prior to that, good win, like I said, on the resume. But you look at the killer's row that Rose has fought. Andrade twice,
no doubt.
Weili and Jacek twice, Weili Zhang twice, finishing Zhang in the first round, finishing Weili and Jacek. No one in that weight class is doing that. And to me, that's the difference there, is that Rose is getting these spectacular performances. You could name maybe one good fight that Carla's had where you're like, wow, like, she's back. She looks like the old champ. All that stuff was the Yan Shonan fight. But I want to go back a couple of years ago, and I know she's improved since then. But do you remember that Tatiana Suarez fight? She didn't look in that fight at all, and that was one where I thought, okay, I thought for sure this is over. But you know, she was able to turn things around. But to me, Rose really hasn't had a fight like that. Like, again, the one Andrade loss. Like, to me, I think she proved that she is still the better fighter in that rematch. And I think if you go back even further, go back to the loss before that against Kovalevich, she's nowhere near that fighter. Last thing I'll mention, the wrestling. Trevor Whitman's her coach. Justin Gaethje's one of her training partners. Like, the wrestling has got to be a focus in this camp. I'm sure she's covering every base there. To me, that's the only way Carla wins, is if she can really implement her wrestling, take down Rose or do whatever. But I don't think she's going to knock her out. Rose has the reach. Rose is fast. I think Rose wins this no problem. I think minus 213 is generous. I do. I really like Rose here. The question is, does she finish? It's a 5-round fight. I think it's entirely possible she does. But I'd also be looking at Rose by decision as well, just because Carla is pretty durable. But I don't know. I like Rose all day here. Maybe I'm out to lunch. Maybe you guys are going to make fun of me next week with Carla upsetting. But I really feel strong about Rose here.
But you're comparing the matchup of Tatiana. That's stylistically, that's a nightmare matchup for Carla, because she's better at what Carla's good at. And to be honest with you, I think Tatiana would do the same thing to Rose in that defense. I think Tatiana is the best. A
healthy Tatiana. I don't know. We'll see when she comes back. But
a mediocre Tatiana, in my opinion. She is very good, and I think she would do the same thing to Rose off of the layoff. Well, you know, obviously that's got to down the road, but stylistically, she's a nightmare matchup for Esparza, because she's better at what Carla is. For sure, good.
The style matchup played a good role. I just meant the fact that Carla wasn't even in that fight. Like, to me, we haven't seen a Rose fight like that, where like someone has fought. Maybe it's because she hasn't fought the style matchup that caused her to act like this. But to me, it was just like she wasn't in that fight at all. Like, I was at that fight. I wasn't at that fight. I was at the Suarez fight after. But still, to me, it's like Rose has just like had all these really good performances, and the one you could critique is one I thought she was winning. So I don't know. Maybe I'm relying too heavily on the opposition, but you just look at who Rose has fought. I mean, it is the best of the best in that division.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And I just have a feeling, you know what I mean? Like, I'll say this, and then I'm sorry, Nick, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
The Carla, one thing that Carla is really good at is her fight IQ is really good. And what she's good at is she's good at banking rounds at the end. She'll strike with you for 3.5 minutes, get that takedown with 90 seconds left, and ride that out to bank rounds. She understands when to shoot. And she's early on in her career, she shot too early, and it cost her dearly, because it would cost her energy. She was forcing, it was very apparent what she was trying to do. I think later, as she's gotten older and gotten smarter, she uses her brain more, and she's banking rounds towards the end of the fight that was a close fight, and she'll bank those rounds with takedowns. I could see a scenario where that's what happens here. But if you said, yo, Rose went and shut Carla Esparza out, I would not be shocked. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be shocked. I just have a weird feeling here that Carla's going to shock some people. I'm just a guy giving my opinion. I mean, you bring up a lot of good points. The last thing I'll mention is kind of like just a side note to this. Is she not getting married after this fight? Like, you guys have all been married. For the woman, that's a big deal, right? Like, you know, one of the biggest moments of your life. Who is?
Carla? Esparza's
getting married directly after, like I would think like a week after the fight. But still, come on, we're guys. It's no big deal. But like, for women, that's a huge thing. I don't know. I think that's a little extra thing that just, if I were her, I would have just moved the wedding to whenever. This is a huge fight for her. I don't know. To me, that's a little side thing to this, where it's like, I know,
Carla's a gangster.
Yeah, yes, right. But I mean, look, she's not going to get out of that fight unscathed. So I agree with Lynch there. I mean, she probably could have just pushed that wedding out a little bit more just to make sure the pictures and everything should show up. Okay, even
it's more like a side note. Her getting married does not the factor in this fight.
No,
but
I understand. Let me just say this: what you guys kind of battled back and forth and made a case for each side. That's what you're seeing at the betting window as well. That's what makes this fight so intriguing, and that's why it's getting so much action, because you can make a case for Rose, her improvements, everything Lynch just said. You could definitely support that. I mean, she's been phenomenal. On the other side of things, like you said, Krause, I mean, stylistically, it is such a difficult matchup potentially for her again because of the style that Esparza brings to this fight. So that's why you're seeing so much action. And I love that you guys are split, because a lot of sharps out there are going to be split as well.
There you go. Made people even more confused, but most people go with Krause anyway, so it's all good. Anyways, Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson, give me a little bonus content this week. This is a huge fight. How could we not talk about this? This line, because I've been paying attention to Nick. I remember the line came out in January. It was pretty close. Michael Chandler now -400. The comeback on Tony Ferguson +300. I'm sure you've been seeing a lot of money coming in on Chandler, because that's what I'm seeing too, just from a public eye.
Well, it opened -155 for Chandler, so of course everybody pounced on that line. There's no -155 out there.
I know,
so
looking back, it's crazy.
Everybody came in and took that line, bet it up 200-300. You know, now up to -400 above. Which, in my opinion, at -400, it starts getting. You got to start scratching your head, because not too long ago, if this fight would have took place, Ferguson would have been favored, for crying out loud. So, but that being said, it's 2022. What we've seen as of late is what a lot of people, think fresh in their mind. So, should Chandler be a solid favorite going into this fight? Of course. Should the line be this high? I don't know. We'll leave it up to you guys to decide right now. But as far as action goes, again, everybody bet the line up. But now we have seen some sharp support come and take the Ferguson side at the big dog plus money. So to me, this is a very intriguing fight. Maybe we could see Ferguson kind of show a little bit of life here and pull off this upset. I'll let you guys decide what to do here.
Krause, so the dog's going to be barking 3 times in a row here, or who are you going with?
No, I think this is going to be one-way action. Whenever I look at a fight, I look at like path to victory, right? Like, and then I'll ask both of you guys, how does Tony Ferguson win this fight? Like,
that's my question too.
The only thing that scares me here is I feel like every fight Tony's in, he'll clip you once, and if he doesn't hurt you to change the tide, and that he typically doesn't put people away. He had Gaethje with one uppercut that kind of buzzed him a little bit. I just don't see how Tony wins this fight, man. It's MMA, anything can happen, but he's not a better striker. He's damn sure not a better wrestler. He's not a better grappler. His cardio's not any better. I just don't see a path to victory for Tony Ferguson here. To me, this is a parlay piece where you know what I mean? Like, you put, I don't know, Cerrone and Chandler and Rose and Chandler, or whoever, you know what I mean? You put whoever you want to win and get some more juice out of it with Chandler. I don't see how Tony wins this fight. I may look stupid next week. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I'm totally with you here. Finally, we agree on something. I just think that for me, it's like, so this reminds me a bit of Tyron Woodley, and let me just go into this a little bit. It's like when Woodley fought Jake Paul, or Woodley fought Colby or Gilbert Burns. People are still trying. There's people who like Woodley, and they try and remember the old Woodley. They're like, remember when he knocked out Robbie Lawler? Like, with Ferguson right now, I don't think that old Ferguson exists anymore. He said injuries. He's getting up there in age. He has a long layoff coming into this fight. So if it was the old Tony, yeah, I could see there a chance of maybe something crazy happening. But even that uppercut against Gaethje, I don't know if he can even do that against Chandler. Chandler's really good. He was this close to winning the lightweight title against Oliveira, like I referenced earlier. He's got some power in his hands. And, who hits harder, in my opinion, Justin Gaethje or Tony Ferguson? It's Justin Gaethje, at least right now it is. And so if Gaethje couldn't put him out, I don't think Tony Ferguson is either. Plus, Chandler's got the wrestling in his back pocket. Another thing I've seen, people talking about Chandler's cardio, oh, he's going to gas. What planet are you living on? Are you not watching any fights? The guy was a champion in Bellator. He's done 5 rounds. He's got good cardio. People are like, it's going to be a factor. It's not. That's the Tony fan in you talking, honestly. Anything can happen in a fight, like you said, Krause, but I think Michael Chandler wins this all day. I think the line is, it's probably going to go even higher. Just
I think the line is just.
I do as well. Again, anything can happen in MMA, but I think Chandler wins this no problem. The question is, does he finish this fight? Tony extremely durable. You even look at the Gaethje fight. That was a late finish in that one. Dariush couldn't finish him. Oliveira couldn't finish him. I could see this fight going the distance on both ends potentially, because I don't even know if Ferguson would be able to knock out Chandler or anything. So we'll see. But I like Michael Chandler here. So that's what I'm going with. Before we get to prop bets, there was a couple other fights we wanted to kind of just touch on here quickly. I noticed you referenced Cerrone. I'm going the other way on that one. I like Joe Lozon in that fight. And let me explain why. I like Lauzon because to me, like he could have just walked off into the sunset at UFC Boston after it went over Jonathan Pearson. It's all good, but he took this fight specifically because A, it's Cowboy, and B, I think he knows he can win. And to me, it's the damage factor. Cerrone's taken a ton of damage over the last couple fights. Alex Morono, a guy who's not typically known for quick finishes, he took Cerrone out early. I think it's a sign of Cerrone fading as opposed to Lauzon. I know Lauzon, we're a couple fight removed from Chris Gutzmacher beating him, and I forget the other loss he had. But to me, the time off for Lauzon, it's been a while. I think he's coming back. He's going to be very tactical, very strategic. This is a 50-50 fight. When it's that close, I go with the dog. I'm going with Joe Lauzon here. So tell me why you think Cerrone's going to win.
I just use him as a reference. Honestly.
Oh, you did? Okay, I didn't know if you're actually picking him. Okay, maybe I'm digging too deep into this, but
no. I mean, I'll argue with you here because I looked at this fight last night, and I don't think you're not wrong. The chin is not what it used to be for Cowboy. He's a little slower, but he's still technically there. And once again we talk about path to victory, how's Joe beat him? Is he going to take him down? I think I don't see him knocking him out. I mean, I could be crazy. Joe doesn't have a lot of standing knockouts. You know what I mean? Like,
no, he doesn't.
And I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying when I look at this, I'm like, okay, what is the likely way for Joe Lauzon to win this fight? Well, he typically takes people down and either subs them. He's not subbing Cowboy unless he hurts him first. He's not.
That's what I think could happen, though. Some shots to the body, you never know. I don't know. It's interesting, but
I could
and also
see
remember
Cowboy
this is
hurting him. Standing.
True. One other factor in this, what weight class is this in? 155. Cerrone's fought at 170 last couple of fights. That extra cut, that's going to hurt him a bit. And I think his durability is going to be even more susceptible because of that cut. Lauzon's fought at 55 for a while. Like he's never been a 170er. So that's another thing to kind of look at here. But yeah, when I saw that, I was like, I think Lauzon, there's some good value there. That's kind of
as far as action at the sports books go. I mean, it did open minus 300. So at that point, you're getting around plus 250. Of course, everybody was going to pounce on Lauzon and then, they continue to do so because the line has dropped it's dipped under minus 200 right now, like around minus 170, minus 165. It continues to drop. I do think out there, a lot of people think it's a dog or pass situation because of the durability factor that Lynch just mentioned as well. But if these guys were both, I don't know, on a similar scale, which they kind of are. That's why I like this matchmaking, right? Both these guys have had their best days behind them for sure. So that's what the intriguing part is here. And that's why I think it's a dog or pass situation in most people's mind, right? Because if this was kind of a fresh Cerrone or a fresh Lauzon, of course, Cerrone's going to be a decent sized favorite. Maybe the opener was more justified there at that point, right? But right now, from what we've seen, a battle-worn Cerrone right now. And again, Lauzon might be a little bit more fresh if that's the case here, right? Because he's had a little bit more time off, a little bit less damage over the last couple of years as well. So there's a lot of intriguing factors coming into play here. And I'm looking forward to this fight for sure. Again, excellent matchmaking.
Any other fights you wanted to touch on? I know we were talking off air about Andre Filial against Cameron Van Camp, which makes no sense to me whatsoever. Like, why is the UFC giving Filial after that huge win over Miguel Baeza, a new guy? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And a guy who didn't even have that great of a resume on the regional scene.
In his defense, he's had a pretty tough lineup. Comes straight off, you know what I mean? Straight off the bench. He had Pajea on short notice, and then he had Baeza, which those are two tough.
Well, I was talking about
guys.
Van Camp's resume, not Filial. Filial's fought a lot of good fighters over the years.
Well, maybe it's a bone to Filial rather than I mean?
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
He's exciting. You know what I mean? So they love exciting fighters. How can you not? He goes out there, win or lose, he's going to go out in a shield, so to speak, right? So I like it, man. I'm glad they brought him in. I'm glad he's finding some success right now. It's a tough fight for Van Camp for sure, though.
Any other matchups that kind of catch your eye? There's a lot of good fights in this card. Yeah, sure. Let's hear it.
I want to get your guys' thoughts because at the betting window again, I mean, I'm seeing a ton of action coming on Randy Brown over Chaos Williams. I think
that was the one I was thinking of. Yeah,
Randy Brown is such a good fight, man. It's outstanding. Yeah. This is probably the sleeper fight of the card. So personally, I opened Chaos Williams a slight favorite, and the action has come in on Randy Brown. A lot of sharp actions come in that way, but we are starting to see some belief back on Chaos Williams as well, because again, Randy Brown did open market wide as a slight favorite. Chaos got bet. Now it's going back towards Brown. So a ton of action on this fight as well. Let me see what you guys think here.
Go ahead.
So I'm picking Chaos Williams. However, if you're looking at betting this fight, the Randy Brown by submission is a great thing. Remember, he submitted Cowboy Oliveira not that long ago. Like, Chaos, how is he on the ground? How is this guy? Like, he's a stand-up guy. And to me, it's like, it's knockout or bust for this guy usually, right? Like, and I know he's had a couple, he had a decision win in there as well. But to me, it's like, they're both good strikers. And whereas Brown has that edge on the ground, that's where I think Brown could edge this one out. But I think it will stay standing, and we've seen Randy get knocked out. So that's where I kind of feel like Chaos will do it. But I think I'm definitely going to play Brown by submission just because I think it'll be a good play there. What do you think?
we talk about path to victory here. I feel like Chaos has one way to win this fight, and it's the same way he wins every fight. I think Brown is the better fighter. I think he's a better striker technically. I think he's got better cardio. He's more of an athlete. I think he's a better grappler, better wrestler, blah, 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 blah. All that being said, Chaos has the death touch. You know what I mean? And we're not talking about like typically I would say like I like to stay away from fighters that like their only way to win is to catch somebody. Chaos ain't catching somebody. This is like he's got real power. You know what I mean? It's like the same thing as like saying like, oh, Francis just caught me. Nah, he knocks the shit out of everybody. You know what I mean? Like it's not like this is not an accident. You know what I mean? So Chaos has that. He's got the danger factor. However, I do feel like Randy Brown is pretty defensively sound, and we talk about him being knocked out before. We got knocked out by Vicente Luque, who is not a one puncher. You know what I mean? He's a volume puncher that puts combinations together, adds the kicks in, to where Chaos is just on 1 and 2 at a time. You know, you just have to. It's like you just got to watch out for 150 cal shot rather than a bunch of 22s. You know what I mean? Like there's a big difference there in stylistic ability to knock somebody out. So I think Randy's is very defensively sound when it comes to 1s and 2s, and he's extremely, extremely long. Like he's deceivingly long. And I like Brown in this fight. I think he's a better fighter. I think he's a better athlete. I think Chaos has one way to win this fight, and if Brown can stay away from that, I think he's going to be in business. However, that one way is not a puncher's chance here. You know what I mean? They don't call him Chaos for no reason.
and just quickly, the reach is actually similar. Randy's got a 78-inch reach. Chaos is a 77-inch reach. So we'll see who can sort of use that better to their advantage. Randy's a little bit taller though, but yeah.
Yeah, I think this is, I'm not trying to argue by any means here, but like reach and length are two different things to me. Reach is like your statistical measured, how far are you? Length is how long you fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Brown
I see what you mean. Yeah,
fights out of the pocket. Like Brown fights longer than his reach. Like just because you have a long reach doesn't mean you fight long. You can fight short. Like Gaethje's got he's got a decent reach for his size, but he fights very short, right? And then there's guys that are the opposite that are shorter that fight long. Brown is long and fights long. Chaos doesn't really fight long. And I do think whoever kicks more in this fight, I think will have a big advantage. That would be a stat that I would be interested to see at the end of this fight. I do believe whoever's going to kick more is going to win this fight. I know that sounds stupid, but I think that will be the range finder for these guys. And, we'll see, I guess. We'll see.
Let's get to our prop bet of the week. Krause, you want to kick us off? What do you like in prop-wise?
Yeah, Filial by knockout. I feel pretty good about this one. I'm a huge fan of this guy. I've been a fan of this guy since before he was in the UFC. I've been following him for a long time. The dude has real power, and he's what I call a fighter's fighter. You know what I mean? Like he's not afraid of anybody. He's not afraid to get gritty. He's not afraid to get this is for lack of a better word. I like the way he fights very intimate. Like he's very close. He wants to feel you. He wants to put hands on you. He wants to be violent, and I like that. And unfortunately for Van Camp, obviously this is MMA. We've all looked stupid before talking about somebody so-and-so was going to kill this guy, and then it's a miracle or whatever. I just don't see how Van Camp wins this fight. Everybody has a puncher's chance. Van Camp's not even a huge puncher. I don't see how he wins this fight. I think Filial gets him out of there early. I'm really big on Filial. I think he's one of the better strikers in the division. If they keep matching him up with strikers, I think he's going to be a problem. Until he runs into a really good wrestler, I think he's going to continue to knock these guys out. Unfortunately, Van Camp is on that list next to me.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm going to be looking at that as well. This is kind of a newer fight that's added to the card, so I know there's not a ton of like lines and stuff on that yet, but I'm going to be looking for that knockout prop as well. Yeah. That's sort of what I thought too. Okay, my prop bet of the week, I kind of showed my hand earlier, but Michael Chandler by decision is plus money. I don't know why. I like Ferguson's, like I said, extremely tough to finish. Gaethje was the last guy to do it. It was later in the fight. I suppose it's a possibility, but I think if you're Chandler, there's a clear path to victory. If you wrestle him, if you just land harder shots, I think it's only a 3-round fight, right? It's not 5. So yeah. I think there's a very good chance it goes the distance. So Michael Chandler, you're getting him at, I think, around plus 240. That to me is a great mark as opposed to betting minus 400. So I'm going to take Michael Chandler by decision here.
Are you worried about like a pity stoppage at all? Like, you know what I mean? Like what we saw with Gaethje. Like,
I think because it's Tony, I think if anything, they'll let it go on longer. He's a fan favorite.
Gaethje stopped him, right?
Yeah, he did, but that was later. I want to say that was in. Let me double check the actual round. I want to say it was 4th round when.
Yeah, was that 5 rounds?
Yeah, that was 5 rounds.
Okay.
This was an interim title. Yeah, it was fifth round. That's right. Sorry, not even. So that adds even more to my case there.
Yeah,
I think it goes the
you're
distance.
right. I thought that was 3 rounds. You're right. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so there we go.
I already played the over 1.5 on that. I love over one.
We've been hitting those overs pretty well the last couple of weeks, right? A lot of those fights, even Arlovsky last week as well. No matter which side you were on in that fight, whether you thought the decision was good or not, the over's still hitting that one, which was good. Okay, let's get to our bet of the week. Krause, what are you liking here?
Man, this week is a really tough week, and like last week was probably one of the best betting weeks that I've ever had. Like I just couldn't. I think I put like 21 plays down and I missed 1 or 2. Like I couldn't miss last week. And then of course we have this week right here, which is a tough week in my opinion. I'm just gonna throw a juicy parlay out. Dumont Chandler. I think it's still at minus something. If you want to add a third leg to make it close to even money, I would add Rodriguez, Clayton Rodriguez. The kid's remarkable. The only thing that worries me about that is Vergara he's tough, he's durable, he's gonna hang around. I don't see him winning the fight though. I played this parlay already. I mean, it's kind of a square parlay. It's nothing special. But this week is pretty tough. If you guys don't like that, I like the over 1.5 on Chandler and Ferguson. I think that was at like minus 155, which I was very surprised at. Play either one of those. I think both those hit.
Yeah, I like that. Oh, actually, the only one, Dumont and Chasson, that's such a weird fight to me because I think Macy she missed weight in that fight. Raquel, as we know, is pretty good. We saw her beat Aspen Ladd after that fight. Norma, I think that was more of Aspen Ladd not showing up in that fight than Norma getting the win, in my opinion, from how I was watching it. Like, I haven't been overly impressed with her. And I know Macy hasn't looked great either, but I feel like one of these times we're going to see like the real Macy, the one that we saw in The Ultimate Fighter, the one that was winning a couple of fights. She's strong. I think 45 is a much better weight class for her. She was having trouble making 135. This is at 45. Right. So, and I know Norma fought Felicia Spencer and all that. And, she's more of a mainstay at 45 too. But I think Macy, that there could be an upset there, maybe. But I will say this, like, I'm just staying away from that fight. There's a couple of fights I'm staying away from on this card. Oven St. Preux and Shogun's another one, like just two unpredictable guys. Like, I'm not even going to touch that one. This is another one where I don't feel great about. So, I mean, all the power, Norma probably will win, but I don't know. There's too many question marks for me in that fight. So that's the only name I would maybe remove from that parlay if I was me. But what do I know? Let's get to bet of the week. And again, it sort of showed my hand here earlier. I like Charles Oliveira at minus 170. You parlay him with Rose Namajunas, again, really high on Rose. I think that hits. If you want to be a little bit safer, maybe you could do the Oliveira. Gaethje doesn't go the distance. You could take Rose in that parlay, and you could maybe even sprinkle it even a little bit more and throw the over in the Chandler Ferguson fight or something. I don't know. But to me, I'm going to stick with Oliveira and Namajunas. Keep it simple. I think they both win. I think they both retain their titles, and they're both kind of in the same category for me. Until someone beats them on their current streak, I'm not picking against them because it has to be some crazy style matchup. But right now, I'm going Oliveira and Thug Rose. So there we go. Good time to wrap up the show. Make sure you check out Nick on UFC On the Line on UFC Fight Pass, giving out his bets. Krause, you can check out, just check out his Instagram. He's always posting stuff. And you got the Discord chat, all types of good value there as usual. Follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Lynch on Sports. No betting stuff on there, just my interviews. Always got to promote those. I forget how many interviews for this card. It's been a ton. So just go look on Twitter. You'll see everyone that I had a chance to speak to. For myself, for Nick Kalikas, for James Krause, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time and enjoy the fights this weekend.